Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today to talk about finding and applying for jobs. My name is Desiree Williams, and I serve AKSI as the Digital Education Coordinator, and I will be producing this webcast. Before we dive into the content, let's review the web-based features that are available to you. This webinar will be advanced remotely, but at the bottom of your screen, there are multiple application widgets you can use throughout the program. If you are accessing the webinar via a mobile device, you may need to scroll down or over on your screen in order to access these widgets. Each window on your screen is also customizable, so feel free to resize and move them to fit your needs. A copy of the slideshow and other additional materials are available in the green resource list widget on the right. The group chat is available for you to interact with other attendees and the presenters during the presentation. When posting, it will share your first name and last initial, but please share your chapter and university as well. If you have any technical difficulty, please click on the Help widget with the question mark icon. And lastly, if you have a question throughout the program, please type that into the Q&A widget. All questions will be discussed at the end of the program with our presenter. The job search process can be daunting, especially as a graduating senior or recent grad, but the process itself is only a few steps. Prepare your materials, search for open positions, apply, interview, and accept the offer. In our first webinar in this Job Search Essentials series, we explore tips for creating resumes and cover letters to begin that process. And now today, we will focus on the second and third steps. For more information, be sure to check out the other webinars in the Job Search Essentials series. So let's dive a little deeper into today's conversation. So finding and applying for jobs can be overwhelming, right? And where do you start? In this program, we will review the job search process and outline what to consider as you look for a new position. We'll explain how to review job postings, where to find these open positions, and how to find one that really matches your career goals. For our program today, John Link will be the presenter. John is the director of the Career Planning and Development Center at Webster University in St. Louis, Missouri. John has over 10 years of experience assisting in career planning and development, including major and career exploration, targeted internship and job search strategies, and graduate school decision-making. John is an Indiana native who earned a bachelor's degree in elementary education in 2007 and a master's in student affairs and higher education in 2016, both from Indiana State University. John enjoys the opportunity to impact student confidence when presenting their skills and qualifications to employers through individual and small group career coaching and targeted career skills development programs. And now I'll hand it off to John to get us started.
Thanks for the introduction, Desiree. Before you begin searching, it's important to define some goals for a must-have list for your next position. What type of employment are you seeking? Is it an internship? Is it part-time or full-time work? Are you interested in working in a specific geographic location, company, or work environment? A large or small company, or even a remote or on-site? What specific job titles will you target in your search? Have you conducted research about these job titles using occupational labor market tools, such as ONET Online or the Occupation Outlook Handbook? After establishing a goal, begin thinking about the actions you can take to achieve those goals. Start by preparing your tools. Update your comprehensive resume so that any targeted application materials can be created once opportunities are presented. The goal of your resume is to secure an interview for the position. Next, edit and expand your LinkedIn presence. Networking may feel icky to some, but many employment opportunities are discovered through maintaining relationships with networking contacts who share similar professional interests. LinkedIn is a digital marketing tool that provides its users a platform to market their professional skills, connect with employers, and be in the know about job leads from their networking connections. Communicate your goal to 3 to 5 connections who may serve as professional references. Preparing a list of references can be a great way to practice communicating where you're currently at in your career decision-making to former supervisors, colleagues, or faculty who will speak positively about your skills and qualifications for any position you're being considered for. Develop an organizational approach to your job search strategy. This may be documenting information in an Excel document by indicating the date of your application and any intention to follow up with employers 3 to 5 days after submitting your application. Any follow-up findings can then be documented in the same manner. Prepare follow-up communication. Prepare a brief, professional email that can be adjusted to any position you're applying for. This will save time when following up with employers and recruiters. And last, prepare a standard thank you message that can be used as a framework when writing a handwritten message to employers and recruiters after you have interviewed for the position you're applying for. Again, this is a time saver and is a great way to show appreciation to an employer for their time and consideration of you. Once you've prepared all these materials, where can you find job postings? Job boards are a great place to begin. There are many large job boards that can be used successfully, especially when job boards have filters that can send email notifications when new positions are added. It's important to think about how job boards can be used to your advantage when discovering employment opportunities that are filtered based on your employment goal. The more focused your goal, the more opportunities you will discover. Some examples of large job boards include Indeed, Simply Hired, Monster, LinkedIn Jobs, America's Job Bank, Idealist, your university's online career management system, usajobs.gov for those interested in government opportunities. I do want to circle back, though, to LinkedIn Jobs and the university tools that you may have access to. These specific job filters are based on the information that you are including in your profiles. So you will have customized jobs for you based off of your degree, any sources of experience, and the skills that you are including within your profiles. The more information that you complete as part of your comprehensive profile in LinkedIn or an online career management platform, the more likely you're going to find jobs that are customized to those areas of career interest. Campus and community career and internship fairs are great ways to discover new opportunities at a fast-paced networking event. Ahead of the fair, identify the employers who are attending and see what positions they're recruiting for. Build a list of the employers you would like to speak with and go prepared to articulate your interests, your goals, your skills, and qualifications. Fairs are great for many reasons. It gives you an opportunity to practice your professional persona and meet multiple employers in one place, and the employers come to you. A follow-up strategy is essential after a career and internship fair. Recruiters meet dozens of these candidates, so you must prepare communication that is specifically targeted to that recruiter after the fair has been completed. A tip to execute this successfully is to jot down any notes after each completed conversation with an employer so that you can recall any significant information shared during the brief exchange and reference that in your email. Do not expect the employer or recruiter to follow up with you, so this is a very important strategy and tip when you are looking at next steps after completing this sort of large-scale speed networking event where multiple employers are recruiting for top talent or looking to identify candidates who may be interested in going online and applying for any of the openings that they may have available. So please make sure that you are connecting, you're making sure that you're following up, and that you are following the directions of the recruiter or the employer. A more targeted approach to identifying positions would be to just visit the company websites. This approach originates with the candidate building a list of employers who hire professionals who have the same employment goal as you. The more employers that you can identify, the more opportunities you will have access to. Many public libraries have these robust employer directories within your geographic location, the region, or the state. And these can be really useful in knowing how you can build this list of employers that may be aligned to your specific goal or may hire people who have your specific skills or qualifications. Your contact network, including your family, friends, colleagues, and classmates, should be alerted to your employment goal through any communication platform you would normally use. For example, you could say, I'm excited to be near completion of my Bachelor of Science in Leadership and Management degree at Webster University in St. Louis. I'm currently looking for any job leads where I can leverage my A, B, or C skills and experience in XYZ industry. This targeted communication approach through LinkedIn, for example, could be a great way for those who may know some information that could be helpful for you. That might be connecting you to a specific employment opportunity, a specific employer, or being the middle person for somebody that they are aware of who is hiring and is looking for the skills or qualifications that you're mentioning in this sort of communication. So this alerting of your contact network could be a very good strategy just to update your contacts, but also for them to be able to assist you in identifying any leads for employment opportunities. Once you've found open positions through the means that we just discussed, you must review each posting to ensure it's valid and something that is really aligned to your goals and you're interested in applying for. So here are some questions to kind of frame our conversation about reviewing job postings. 1, what should you be looking for in a job posting to assess if you are qualified for the position? Number 2, how do you know if you are qualified? And last, how do you find a position that is a great match for your skills, your unique abilities, anything that is essential to the goal that you have outlined for this job search? So going back to what you should be looking for or identifying within a job description, review the skills that are requested of the candidate. A thorough scan of the job posting will indicate what areas of soft and hard skills are requested. Identify what skills you have developed that are transferable to the position being reviewed. The best approach is to print a copy of the job posting and highlight the skills that you believe are essential to that specific position. This information will be helpful when identifying areas of skills and experience that are a match for the soft or technical skills you highlighted within the job posting. And to really look at what those transferable skills are, those are the pack and go skills that you've acquired through multiple sources of experience, such as your interpersonal communication skills, leadership, teamwork, the ability to analyze different problems and find solutions. Those can be articulated through many different areas of your resume and your cover letter, but when you're focusing on what transferable skills would be of most use to that specific position, a thorough scan of that job posting is necessary. Number 2, going back to how do you know if you are qualified for the job that is being advertised? It's okay to review that job posting and apply even if you are not 100% qualified. Usually there are preferred and required qualifications indicated within the job description itself. Preferred qualifications are what the hiring manager is hoping to find in a candidate or in a candidate pool. For example, it may be required that a candidate for full consideration has already maybe developed a bachelor's degree, and maybe they're looking for somebody that has 0 to 3 years of experience within that specific field. But it may be preferred that the candidate has earned a master's degree and maybe 2 to 5 years within the field. Required qualifications are the minimum areas of technical skill, work experience, and education that are needed for full consideration. So do not apply for a position because you may not be checking off all of the employer's boxes, but specifically look at that job description and see if you're meeting the threshold qualifications for full consideration, because you do not want to spend time customizing a resume and a cover letter for this specific position if you are not meeting the bare minimum of what the employer is requesting of a candidate. And last, how do you find a position that matches your skill set? It's important that you focus on your goal for that employment and the research conducted using occupational and labor market tools. Exploring the world of work using ONET, for example, leading with your interest areas, can assist with categorizing career pathways that are aligned to your personality, interests, skills, and values. ONET has an advanced search tool for users to browse by skills they are proficient in and suggest employment where these skills are used best. This will be helpful in identifying jobs that are a good match for your technical skills, while also considering significant soft skills that are needed to be successful in the position. If you have not gone to onetonline.org, or the Occupational Outlook Handbook. These different occupational and labor market tools are extremely valuable for job seekers. One, it gives you in-depth information about the tasks, abilities, knowledge, any specific technical proficiencies, related occupations based off of skills, abilities, knowledge, education. Those types of tools really give you more in-depth, in-the-know knowledge about how you can market yourself to these different positions. Even when you're thinking, you know, I don't have enough related experience, but I do have enough experience where I develop these skills. So how can I put them all together in this comprehensive application that will get noticed by these employers? So use ONET online, use the Occupational Outlook Handbook to really familiarize yourself with every sort of piece of information that will help complete your application and make you more marketable as a candidate. And finally, we are on to the third step of the job search process. So connecting some of the pieces here and beginning the applying stage of the job search process. So what do you include in your application? This is a common question based on the actual application itself. Always follow the directions of the job posting. Typically, a resume and cover letter are requested. In academia, a curriculum vitae, or CB, is a typical document that is requested as part of that specific application. References are usually requested as fill-in information as part of the employment application, so no references should be mentioned or included on the actual resume itself. It is a good idea, though, to have this as a formatted list prepared so that if it is requested by the employer, it can be attached to the application or sent electronically through email. Next is submitting the materials. Prepare to spend time filling in required information as part of the application. This will include your, let's say, your education, current and past employment experiences that might be directly related to your areas of employment goals, skills and qualifications that may be directly related to the position you're applying for, and some other things that I have already mentioned, such as those who may serve as a reference for you, any specific transcripts that you may have as part of verifying your eligibility for that minimum educational threshold. Those sorts of things could potentially be requested. It's recommended that a candidate fill out all the information the employer is requesting to the best of their knowledge before submitting the application. It is important that you are kind of reviewing at the review page before hitting submit what specifically you have already uploaded or included in those fill-in sections so that you are not omitting anything that is essential for your full consideration for those different positions. So keep in mind that these types of review pages are put in there for a reason because you cannot go back and edit your application in most cases after you have already hit it submit. Some applicant tracking systems request applicants upload their documents, such as a resume or cover letter or transcript, whatever those may be, in a PDF format. So make sure you're following those specific guidelines. And refer back to the job posting and follow any of those specific directions indicated in the posting. This is essential before you move forward in any other stage of the hiring process for that job posting. And then once you've submitted the application, allow 3 to 5 business days before inquiring about where the employer is at in their decision-making or in their hiring process. Document your application submission date and put a reminder in your calendar to follow up on the correct date. This is where most people fail to acknowledge how important it is to develop a follow-up strategy after applying for a position. Unless the job posting says do not contact the employer via phone about where they are at in the hiring process, then you should be planning a specific targeted follow-up strategy for the positions that you are applying for. Following up sometimes feels like you're being pesky, but it shouldn't, because the employer has other things that are happening that they're responsible for, and the hiring or the review of these candidates is only a fraction of what may be a part of their work week. So please keep in mind that this follow-up strategy could be a good reminder that you're out there, that you've expressed your interest again and that you've applied for that position, indicating that you are a strong fit for what they are specifically seeking in a qualified candidate. So make sure that that follow-up strategy is something that you take into consideration when being serious about what that specific employment goal is. As our viewers absorb that information, let's recap some of the key takeaways from today's conversation about job searching and applying for different positions. Before applying, determine what you're looking for and formulate a plan of action. Remember, if you establish a goal, you develop a plan, and you follow through, that specific goal will have more focus and direction because you've developed a plan, because you are following through, and because you are documenting your efforts. There are numerous ways to find any employment position, each with different pros and cons. Take advantage of all the opportunities available to you to find the positions that you desire. When reviewing job postings, pay attention to the requirements and those preferred qualifications, but do not let them deter you from applying to those open positions. Focus on what your goal is and the skills that you have so that you can find the best match for you. And when applying, always follow the company's guidelines and directions. You do not want to disqualify yourself from a perfect fit because you did not follow directions.
Great. Thank you, John, for explaining that process so thoroughly for our viewers. And as they begin to think of questions for you, I'd like to highlight the key skills that we discussed today. Members will gain experience with analytical and critical thinking as they learn to review job postings to find what really matches their skill set. By applying to positions and communicating with recruiters, members will gain experience with decision-making, relationship building, organization, and written communication. And at this point, we are going to transition to questions. As stated earlier, please launch a Q&A widget from the menu dock to submit those questions. If we don't get to your question now, we will respond via email, and this feature will remain open even in on-demand viewing. And now we'll get started with our questions. So first for John, what should I do if I don't have any connections to a company that I'm really interested in working for?
Yeah, so it's important to think about what tools you already have access to connect you to those who may be working for a specific company that you're interested in, such as LinkedIn. Oftentimes when you go to LinkedIn and you're researching companies and looking at their online presence, you might discover that somebody at your institution or somebody that you may have already connected with, maybe a division or a connection with somebody who works at the company you're targeting. So oftentimes you're more connected to those employers than you may think just by using the tools that you already have access to. Another great feature within LinkedIn is the university tool. If you click on your institution, the filters will allow you to identify potential alumni within your network who may be working for that employer or who may be able to introduce you to those companies that you're interested in connecting with. So use LinkedIn as a way to connect with those like-minded professionals, and also keep in mind that your alumni network is a great place to also see where those alums are working, and maybe they might have a connection they can introduce you to at that company you're targeting. Very good question.
All right, and we'll move to our next question. I think I have the skill set for a position, but I don't have the experience to put on my resume. What can I do to get this position?
Yeah, so when you look at that job posting, as indicated earlier in our conversation, you are beginning to identify those required and preferred areas of skill and qualifications for the job that you might be interested in. And then you may generalize it for an overall job search strategy. So when you're looking at what experiences you have and how you can market that experience, skills, and whatever else is needed to prepare an application for that opening, think about what areas of experience are a best fit are most transferable to what is needed in the job description. Many times it's a lot of extra work on customization of that job application so that you are highlighting those strongest areas of qualification and skill through multiple sources of experience. So don't think of experience as just what you have as far as internships or other pay opportunities. It may be sources of experience from study abroad, your co-curricular involvement through your professional association membership. It could also be classroom projects or other work-related areas within the classroom that could be promoted in your application materials as you're presenting your academic background. So think broadly about experience. And remember, confidence is a big part of how you're presenting yourself to these different employers and recruiters. If you're confident with what you bring to the table and you have an aggressive follow-up strategy, you're more likely to get the attention of an employer or recruiter than if you go into this process thinking that you are not qualified or not skilled to get the attention of those employers. Very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll move on to our next one. You had mentioned job boards a few times in the presentation. So this question, how do you set yourself apart when applying to positions on company job boards when they're likely to get hundreds of applications?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. The creativity that you can pour into your applications, as already mentioned, is the customization of those employment application documents, such as your resume and your cover letter. If you are spending time to customize using the specific information that is included within the job description, you're more likely to get to a human reviewer of that application because you have paid attention to the essential areas of skill and responsibility of the job posting, and you made a great argument for yourself and detailed that within those application materials. The applicant tracking system has this unique algorithm that may capture a variety of different requested skills, unique abilities, and knowledge areas that are requested from the applicant. If it gets to the point within the applicant tracking system where it moves past to somebody in human resources for their review, you're likely going to get more attention because you did spend time customizing it and you did spend time identifying your strongest areas of skill and qualification for what they are specifically recruiting for. So it could be that any position would have 10 to 20 to a few hundred applicants. Make sure that you are spending that time following what they are specifically requesting of that applicant, and that's how you'll stand out among a crowded pool of candidates for those openings.
All right, and our next question you kind of mentioned already, but we'll go ahead and ask again and see if you have any other insight to give. So what should I do if I'm finding positions that I don't feel I'm qualified for?
Yeah, that is a great question to elaborate a little bit more on. If you're finding things that you believe that you are not qualified for, you have to first ask, one, is it aligned to your goal? So if you're looking at a specific goal that requires a minimum of a master's degree education and you are still completing your bachelor's degree, then yes, you're obviously going to look at that type of employment opportunity and say, I'm not yet qualified for it. This is going to take a little bit more time for me to build the knowledge areas to market myself for these specific openings. But if you're looking at a position and they're requiring, say, 2 to 5 years of work experience, well, you can really focus on your student experience or any other types of experience that you may have had as part of your degree program that could be framed as years of service or years of experience where those skills have been put to good use and could be transferable into that specific employment position that you're wanting to be considered for. So think specifically about what your goal is, align your qualifications, skills, and knowledge, and use those occupational and labor market tools such as ONET to really identify what specifically you may be doing while you are completing your degree. If you review those job zones within ONET and you know that there's a considerable amount of preparation for the type of occupation that you're targeting, then you need to be focusing on what those technical skills are and what the degree levels are. And then you need to be focusing on what types of job tasks, what types of experiences may be most conducive to transferring into that future kind of role that you're targeting as part of your goal.
Okay, and this will be our last question for today's presentation. So what are some tips that you can provide for preparing to attend a job fair?
Yeah, so I think when you are going to any networking event, whether it's a job fair, whether it's a industry event where you're going to be meeting other like-minded professionals to engage in shop talk, or whether you're going to anything that has to do with a company that you may be targeting, and you're getting more information in the form of like an information session, go in there with a specific goal. So ahead of something like a job fair, you need to identify the employers that are attending, and then review the positions that they may be recruiting for. So if it's full-time employment opportunities, identify what those positions are and how they align to your specific goal. That is a good strategy for you to do ahead of that fair so you know who you want to connect with, and you can check them off your list when attending the event. The other thing you can do in preparation for this type of networking event is receive a map of where those employers are at. This will help you develop a good strategy for how you want to maneuver from each of those employers that you indicated from your research. Another good preparation component for really preparing yourself for this type of networking exchange would be preparing a networking pitch or elevator pitch. And this introduction is a great way for you to go into this type of networking exchange and not feel like you don't know how to formally introduce yourself to those employers and identifying your specific goal or what you bring to the table as far as that specific event is concerned. So think about how you would introduce yourself and be prepared to have this memorized so that the employer doesn't think that you're just doing it on the fly. And lastly, I would say have some sort of collection of or best resume that could be as general to the different types of positions that you may be targeting as part of that goal for the research that you already did going into the fair. You don't necessarily have to have your resumes to hand to those employers in a customized manner, but it would be a good idea to have a resume ready to hand them if they request it, or if you offer to leave that there with them as part of a follow-up that you intend to do immediately after the fair. The important thing about leaving physical resumes with a recruiter is that most of those applications are going to have to be started online. So this could be the physical document handed to them if they're allowed to accept those documents at those types of events. Will be a good reminder of who you are, and for them to either follow up with you or you mentioning that you will follow up with them and they're keeping that document handy with them. I'd also say lastly, prepare what you're going to wear early, not the day of, and dress for the event that you're attending. So if you're going to be in front of a variety of employers who are more within your business interests, you are going to identify what the format of the event is, and usually business professional, which would include a two-piece suit, a modest blouse for women, a collared shirt for men, a tie for men, and closed-toed shoes for both. So remember that you don't need to be the best dressed person in there, but you definitely want to look the part because you'll feel more confident when you're presenting yourself to those different employers.
Absolutely. Thank you, John, so much for all of that insight and expertise. Is there any final thoughts that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think it's just really overall important to think about how your goal aligns to your future and thinking specifically about a 2, 3, 5-year plan or even beyond that, and how you can consistently challenge yourself to develop your personal and professional qualifications for anything that you are considering in the near or distant future. So I hope everybody has a great kind of goal in mind and thinking about how you can make progress toward that. And if that goal is specifically to identify those specific types of positions, I hope today's conversation gave you a little bit more focus and direction as part of where you may want to go next.
All right, and for our viewers, if you have any follow-up questions or conversation about this program, please contact education@aksi.org. And be sure to check out the resource list on the right to access more information about the job search process as well as other AKSI webinars. And thank you again, John, for joining us as well as all of our viewers.